Election day is here, and we're at the end of a pretty uneventful campaign. Despite everything that is on the line domestically and internationally in this election, all parties stayed quite low-key. Party leaders seemed focused on inconsequential issues like making jokes about Sinn Féin's storied past or whether or not Simon Harris's 900th apology for being rude in Kanturk is enough to save a few votes. In a year where Donald Trump became the political comeback kid after surviving 2 attempts on his life, we could expect a little less excitement in a 21-day campaign. But the one thing that unites every party in this election is that they all ran terrible campaigns. Let's look at some of the main parties and groupings and see how they could have done a little better. So Fianna Fáil ran a bland campaign. The Moving Forward slogan is about as boring as any we've seen around the world in 2024. In general, Fianna Fáil stayed away from any scandal in this election, which certainly won't lose the party votes. That being said, there is nothing national about the campaign that will inspire anyone to go to the polls. So overall, not a fantastic campaign. Micheál Martin could have leaned into snappy proposals like the new Department of Domestic Affairs a little bit more to galvanise around the immigration issue and to propose tangible change in the next government. Fianna Fáil has been plummeting in the polls throughout the campaign. The Simon Harris honeymoon is well and truly over, especially since the incident in Kanturk last weekend. The abject failure of the Fine Gael crisis team to handle the issue was the final nail in the campaign coffin. Of course, the party had a rough start with the John McGahern scandal, but this was handled better than Kanturk. Now, the fact that it is still in the public conversation is not good for the electoral chances of the party. Helen McEntee's presence on the campaign trail was toxic, and it's hard to see the party grow while she's in any leadership position. Sinn Féin had the biggest opportunity in this election, but it failed to act on it. Complacent campaigners, the party has leaned into its position as rightful heirs in waiting rather than proactively organising the working class. Now, in the last election, they did this proactive work, and they only missed out because they didn't run enough candidates. Now they have mostly lost the working class vote over social issues. The party seems tired and almost expectant of power. It's unlikely that this rubs off well with voters. They should have focused on bread and butter issues and built an aspirational campaign around a grassroots desire for a country run by a Sinn Féin government, not the general insistence that Mary Lou McDonald would be a great Taoiseach. This election was a big test for Aontú. The party held its own in 2019 and 2020 when it was starting out. After a poor showing in June and successive failings in the north, this is the party's last chance to convince its base that it has momentum. The party has built some momentum and it's certain to hit the 2% threshold for state funding. But the momentum is incidental, mostly down to the failure of other parties to inspire than anything the party has done itself. The party projects 10 seats, a fantastical pipe dream 6 months after it barely scraped 8 councillors and embarrassed itself on the European stage. Patrick Tobin's insistence on being the party's only spokesperson will always hold the party back. He appeared on primetime a few weeks ago discussing the Limerick constituency instead of the local candidate Sarah Beasley. This sort of behaviour is unhelpful to the party, and cynics might start suspecting that it's just a way of elevating Tobin's own career rather than capturing the mood of the disenfranchised pro-life vote after the 2018 referendum. The loose organisation of the party will quite possibly benefit candidates locally though. There could be some surprises around the country, like Paul Lawless in Mayo. An increase in TDs will necessitate an increase in national spokespeople, which will ultimately help the party to grow over the next 5 years. The smaller left-wing parties are set for another lacklustre performance. The Vote Left, Transfer Left voting pact relies entirely on Sinn Féin for leadership into the next government, but the party is not leading the movement well. People Before Profit's insistence on wearing keffiyehs likely irks the nativists, but it's unlikely they would ever vote for the party anyway, so it's probably not a big deal. The overall seat projection for small left-wing parties is mostly unchanged, indicating a lack of progress for the movement in this election. Independents still have the best outlook of all the groupings in the Dáil. There's no sign that independent Ireland has recovered from the Kieran Mullooly fiasco in Brussels, but candidates for the party will likely get elected as independents rather than as members of a party. Generally, independent popularity around the country continues to rise. This is as much a protest vote against the government as anything else, though. Now, at the end of the day, voting is local. Surprises will happen around the country in spite of the party performance. The most likely outcome of the election today is a rough three-way tie among Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael and Sinn Féin, with small gains for Aontú and the Independents. From there, we will watch for days, weeks, or most likely months to find out what configuration of the same government Ireland will have for the next 5 years. For Political Strategy, I'm Roger Berkeley.